that time of the year.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
And yet we horrendously missed Christmas.
Yeah, we did miss Christmas, but in our defense, no, I don't know. I don't know what to say in our defense. But at least we didn't miss New Year's Eve. Let's put it this way.
Matteo here from the editing room, and of course we did. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so welcome to Paia Groject Holiday Special. Why not?
The Holiday Spectacular, the Paia Groject Holiday Spectacular.
Exactly.
This will be a very spectacular episode.
Sure. How was your Christmas? It was nice to see you again in person, by the way.
Yes, finally, me and Matteo got the chance to meet again in person, and we played Gaia Project on Christmas. No, that's not true. We didn't play Gaia Project. No, we wanted to play Gaia Project, but in the end, we played Twilight Imperium for
so welcome
7 hours straight.
Welcome to another episode of Space Cats Peace Turtles, the spin-off. No. It's that time of the year, as I was saying. And so...
Merry Christmas, by the way. We missed that, but Merry belated Christmas to all our listeners. And we wish you a very happy New Year's Eve, since you will probably... I mean, this episode is going to come out before... Is it going to come out before New Year's Eve, Matteo? Yes, Matteo is.
It is.
Matteo is nodding. So we will put this online before New Year's Eve. Whether you listen to it before New Year's Eve or not, that's entirely up to you.
Let's just go on with the episode. Sure. However, in this, it's still that magical time of the year where a lot of weird things happen. Oh, beautiful things happen. It's,
even magical things,
ones. It's
like things that you thought, oh, this is not possible, and then it happens because it's magic.
It's when even the direst situations, those which seem hopeless, can turn into something wonderful because it's the magic of Christmas.
And the bad guys can turn into the good guys.
The best ones.
Even the kids that have been on Santa's naughty list can, by a last time miracle, get on the list of good kids.
Sure. And in this magical Christmas land,
where everything can happen,
even the 14th faction can find its place. And so it's my dearest pleasure to welcome you all to our Bal T'Aks guide.
Exactly. We did it. We're officially doing, this is canon, the Bal T'Aks guide, Bal T'Aks episode. It's happening. It's canon. In Christmas, even the Bal T'Aks can win a game, or can they, Matteo?
But I don't know, frankly. But they sure can find their way into this podcast, which hates them with a passion. But yeah, and lately in this magic Christmas moment, I have been playing a wonderful Bal T'Aks game during the last round of the semifinals of our latest tournament, and this fantastic and this great game saw me arriving last by far. with a horrible scoring, something like 120. I don't remember exactly because I don't want to.
Well, that's horrible from a general perspective, but this is just average from Bal T'Aks perspective.
This is a very good showcase for Bal T'Aks potential. No. Okay, no. I want to reassure everybody. I commit myself from this moment on to joke the least amount possible when talking about Bal T'Aks strengths.
I cannot promise you anything above 20%. 20% less irony is what I have to offer for this episode.
That's fair.
All right.
Okay, so we're talking about T'Aks. Can you remind me which are our faction abilities again?
All right. So the Bal T'Aks, or Bal T'Aks. I don't know.
I suppose Bal T'Aks. Anyway,
But there is, they even have an apostrophe between Bal and T'Aks. So it's Bal T'Aks. I don't know. Anyways,
you're the expert. I don't know.
So they are one of the two orange factions in Gaia project, together with the Geodance.
Okay.
So it is evident that Helge does not particularly love the color orange. I'm sorry. Let me start again. So the Bal T'Aks, they are an orange faction. They have orange planets as their home planets, and they have like a very regular, normal board. Nothing exceptional there in terms of starting resources or cost of the buildings, except for the fact that you do not start with the canonical starting QIC that all the factions use. So yeah.
Okay, well, I think that this is because we're strong somehow, and so
exactly.
we need that. Okay.
Exactly. That's because you start at Gaia form in level 1.
Oh, that's cool.
And so say what has this to do with QICs? Well, when we're talking Bal T'Aks, it has everything to do with QICs, because Bal T'Aks have their special ability. This is a special ability they have from the beginning. You don't need anything to unlock this ability. This is a native ability you already have at the start of the game, and Bal T'Aks can always convert their GAIAFORMERS into QICs for a 1-to-1 ratio. So you can take one of your GAIAFORMERS. This is very weird. Instead of placing it on the board and using it as normal GAIAFORMER, you place that GAIAFORMER directly inside the Gaia bowl of the power cycle. So you freeze one of your GAIAFORMERS. You will get it back during the next Gaia phase, in next round. But you freeze that GAIAFORMER for the current round, and you immediately obtain a QAC. This is an immediate action. It's like a conversion. So you can do that and then perform whatever other action you want to.
Cool. Okay, so this is strong. So we are versatile. We can use them both for Gaia forming and for QIC. Is awesome. Do we have other abilities, by the way?
Right. About that. So we have another native ability, and that native ability. So you don't need to
unlock that.
To unlock that, you don't need to open your PI to unlock this ability. And this ability is that you are forbidden from going up the navigation track.
Okay, so we have 2 nerfs and an advantage.
Yeah. As of now, this is the state of affairs. But
repeat me what our PI does, because it must be strong at this point.
Exactly. So when you open your PI is Bal T'Aks PI is normal PI. So makes you charge for start the round and gives you 1 extra power token at the start of each round.
Oh, cool.
And when you open it, it gives you the ability of going up the navigation track. So when you open your PI, it cancels the native nerf that you have. So once you open your PI, you can go up the navigation track as any normal faction. I'm sorry, I said the word normal. I wanted to say others like non-Bal T'Aks factions.
Sorry, I got distracted. My cat did something funny. So I think we can never speak again of this building for the rest of our lives.
Exactly.
What are you saying about our power cycle, by the way?
Exactly. So yeah, let's get this out of the way. So we're not going back to this topic ever again in the rest of this episode. The Bal T'Aks PI is totally useless. You never open it unless you need it for the purpose of federation forming. And if you do so, that will probably happen in the last round of the game, if ever. Period. So nothing more. And yeah, this is it. I mean, there's nothing more to say about the Bal T'Aks PI. We can just forget about that building. Power cycle. The Bal T'Aks Star have a weird power cycle, the weird power situation, because they start with only 4 power tokens instead of 6. And these are distributed. Starting position is 2 tokens in Bal 3 and 2 tokens in Bal 2. These makes for, like, if your objective, if you're aiming at having 4 tokens in Bal 1, that takes the same amount of charge that any other faction would require to get 4 tokens in Bal 3. So you do not have an advantage. Your power cycle at the during the first round, the start of the game, is not better than the other faction because you have less tokens. Because the amount of charging you need to bring 4 of these tokens in Bal 1, if you want to get, I don't know, the 2 or 7 credits power actions. So it's the same amount of charge as any other faction. So of course, this is somehow compensated by the fact that given your native ability, you will always climb up the Gaia forming track. So there is no Bal T'Aks game in which you do not climb up the Gaia forming track. So let's say that probably by round 1, you will already have 7 tokens total. That is starting with 4 plus 3 that you get from the second step on the Gaia forming track.
Okay, but let me rewind just 1 second. So we have this native ability of converting GAIAFORMERS into QICs by freezing them. You started Gaia forming 1, of course. We don't have a starting QIC.
Exactly.
I didn't listen to what RPI does, but that doesn't matter. And we have 2 less powers in Bal 2 at the beginning. Okay.
Exactly.
We have a weird academy too, right?
You have an academy too, which is very weird because unlike all the other academies 2s, our academy 2, instead of QICs, it produces credits. So it's an action. So once you open it, you have this action. Every time you perform this action once per round, you get 4 credits, which is not bad. I mean, it's a kind of a cool building, you know.
I suppose it's 4 because that's the same raw power value than a QIC, and it doesn't give us a QIC because otherwise, I don't know, we would have, no, well, actually Helge told us we would be too strong because we would have access to an excessive number of QICs. Okay, so the situation is this, and I think it's quite dire.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
100% agreed.
But we didn't mention the artwork. It's very cool. It's very cool.
The artwork is pretty cool. Yeah, they're like flaming dudes.
Okay, so
flaming fingers. I know.
Strong, muscular, fiery aliens. That's quite cool. I would say that we are very strong tied to the Gaia forming track, ain't we? Because our only good ability relies on us having Gaia formers.
Yeah,
and we already started 1, and we have 2 less powers than other factions. So, well, not every one of them. Our starting situation is still better than the Lantids one, for example. Well, no, it's not an example, it's just Lantids. But we are encouraged, as you were saying, of getting up the Gaia track as soon as possible. Okay, that's nice. I mean, we could even ignore that at all and behave like a vanilla faction, which already starts with the QIC Academy open, and that's it. But I don't think that's great.
No, me neither. Also because you're not a vanilla faction in that you cannot climb up the navigation track. And so you need other ways of navigating your game across the map. And so you need those QICs in order to, move around and colonize planets.
Okay, so it's Christmas and we have our board laid in front of us and we are considering Bal T'Aks.
We are.
So
for whatever reason, we are.
Because it's Christmas, as I was saying.
Because it's Christmas.
I think that since we cannot climb the navigation track, it's not very important to have orange or transiting planets within 2 hexes from our home planets, right? I mean, 2 or 3 is the same for us. So it doesn't matter. We are quite famous for liking big clusters of planets, especially orange, yellow, reds, and transdims, of course, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the problem is that you have a very strong ability that is you can convert your GAIAFORMERS into QICs. So technically, you should be very rich QICs wise. You should produce plenty of QICs. The problem is that you cannot move. You cannot go up navigation. So those QICs that you produce are the only way that you have to move around the map. We like clusters because, the more planets we have that are adjacent to each other, and the less QICs we need to spend in order to do that. In particular, we like, of course, transiting planets adjacent to our homeworlds. So if there is an orange planet adjacent to 1 or 2 transit planets, that's great, because that saves okay, this is a entirely different topic, but of course we will discuss as we dig deeper into the Bal T'Aks strategy guide. I will discuss whether or not it is worth to GaiaForm with Bal T'Aks, to use their GaiaFormers, some of their GaiaFormers, as actual GaiaFormers instead of just keep converting them into QICs. So this is but imagine that you decide that you want to take some transit planets, then transit planets adjacent to orange planets, they're very good. And also, of course, if you can lay your hands on some red or yellow planet adjacent to one of your homeworlds, that's good as well.
Yes, I think we should spend some words actually on some small tips regarding how to use our GaiaFormers, because that's of course is essential for Bal T'Aks. And well, as you were saying, orange planets adjacent to transiting planets, we have one sector where this is printed on it, which is sector 8. Always look at sector 8 if you are considering Bal T'Aks. Look where it is. If it's in a good place, that's a good clue. However, the best thing I think we can do is to use one of our precious QICs to move and colonize an orange, or maybe a yellow or a red, an easy one is better, planet, which in turn is adjacent to one or more transit, or maybe even more planets, which are relatively easy for us to colonize. When we have the choice, the best thing is probably almost always to first place the actual mine and then the transit, because it's obvious, but in this case, we are one turn in advantage. And this is important because when we lay our GaiaFormers down, we will not get them back until we actually build the mine. You always have to keep this in mind when playing Bal T'Aks. It's very important for your QIC economy to optimize this as much as possible. So we have to think before GaiaForming or to convert our GaiaFormers into QICs, because we are very versatile due to this, and this is true, but we also are very tight on the management of these resources because we have just 3 of them at best, right? And so we have to be very, very careful about that. So yeah, regarding the map, it's quite easy. I mean, orange planets as near as possible to each other, big clusters of transdims and or hot planets, I would say. So
planets that we can easily colonize, be that transdims or red ones or yellow ones, orange ones.
Of course, also blue and brown are not bad, but the best thing, of course, is to as easy as possible.
It's better to have planets that that are just one step of terraforming for us. And in general, like, look at the map and always remember that you won't be able throughout the game, unless the special booster that gives you extra movement is in play, you won't be able to move more than 3 hexagons at a time. I mean, unless we'll come back to this later, but unless you want to spend more than 1 QICs, which we strongly advise you not to do, you won't be able to move them more than 3 squares. So imagine that you have to play this game in which you expand gradually, starting from your 2 starting mines. Every jump needs to be at most 3 hexes away.
On the other hand, you can plan somehow your game on the fact that you can jump 3 hexes and then do that again to reach another distant area. Problem is that out of experience, I can tell you that this is absolutely not as easy as it sounds, because transiting planets tend to be contested, and orange ones are not very sought after. But for example, if IVITs are in play, you have to be very careful about this because they will colonize them with ease. However, IVITs are very predictable. So, but also gleans can be a real problem for us because they not only they take all the yellow, they will also take orange with relative ease and Gaia planets. Regarding printed Gaia planets are something to be very thoughtful about. Of course, they can be important for us if we aim at colonizing most of them, if we pick the tile. But they are very expensive for us because in general, we will spend 2 of our precious GAIAFORMERS just to colonize 1 Gaia planet. Not that it's automatically bad, of course, especially if the map turns out to have a Gaia planet adjacent to a transiting planet. But we always have to ponder every single use of our GAIAFORMERS. In general, I think this is the leitmotif. I don't think that Bal T'Aks should not GAIAFORM. They just have a choice. Some players say it always seems like a waste of a QIC to me, which can be right in certain settings, but they still remain transients. We can be very strong, not very strong. We can be strong GAIAFORMERS.
Yeah, I think what happens most commonly is that people end up playing kind of mixed games in which Bal T'Aks tend to do some GAIAFORMing. They do not GAIAFORM as extensively as Terrans or maybe Ethers do sometimes. 1 transient planets per round or something along that lines. From what I see most people end up, because of course it can be very convenient for Bal T'Aks. They already have their GAIAFORMER. Sometimes you need a planet to enter a specific sector or to jump from that planet to another one, and or you just need to expand and you're being boxed. And so this is a very easy and obvious route for Bal T'Aks. Of course, you don't want to spend all your GAIAFORMERS in a single round using them as actual GAIAFORMERs, unless some specific bonus for Gaia planets is in place, of course.
Hey, speaking about bonus for Gaia planets, I think we could talk about the final scoring objectives, which are good for us and which are not. What do you think?
Right. Well, let's start with the bad news. We are terrible satellites. Satellites is not at all our main mission. We never open our PI, so we never get extra tokens during the game. And we only start with 4 power tokens. And even if we get to GAIAFORMing step 2, which we will do sooner than later. So basically, Bal T'Aks, they play the whole game with 7 power tokens. And that's it. So it's very hard to be competitive on satellites with Bal T'Aks. That means getting a lot of tokens from other sources, be it round boosters or power actions or conversions of ore into tokens. It's not that it cannot be done, it's just harder than it is with any other faction, probably. So satellites is definitely not our main.
I think this also carries over somehow to sectors, because we're not bad at sectors. GAIAFORMing factions in general are not bad at sectors. We always move at least 3 also. So we are not bad at placing a mine in a sector. However, once we are there, we run the risk of being too scattered for our scant power resources in order to federate. Federate is always a huge problem for Bal T'Aks to me, but I will discuss about that later.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, what you often see is Bal T'Aks only forming 2 federations on the board. I'm not saying that's a given, of course. There's plenty of Bal T'Aks games where they are able to form 3 federations, but I would say Firax and Bal T'Aks are the 2 factions that you most often see only forming 2 federations for completely different reasons, but they always end up sometimes they end up with the same result. And this is exactly because of what Matteo was referring to, our lack of satellites. Yeah, I'd say we're good at sectors. Sectors can be an objective in our favor, but it can seriously hamper our ability to form federations. And then we have buildings and buildings in federation. Well, that greatly depends on the type of game that you play. If you want to GAIAFORM, if you don't want to GAIAFORM, if you want to go up the terraforming track, I would say Bal T'Aks are average at both, with the caveat that structures in federation can be a problem if we do not manage to form that 3rd federation. Let's say that they should always aim for the 3rd federation. So let's not consider that a problem, even if it is.
I would go GAIAFORMing, in case of structures or
probably.
It's easier. It's easier to have lots of planets. I mean, they are cheaper, and we are not a rich faction in general.
No,
we are exactly the opposite of a rich faction. And so, if we can optimize that, that's better. Yeah, I agree. We can be average to good, depending on the setup, but we don't shine on that.
Right. Let me say this. There is a very strong connection, not necessarily a good one, but there is an important connection between our native ability and these two objectives. In order to win or to score decently on buildings and federations, you need to colonize planets. And in order to colonize planets, you need to move around. And Bal T'Aks are not good at moving around. I mean, they are, but it costs them dearly. So if you want to place some 14, 15, 16 structures on the map, that means spending the majority of your precious QICs, the QICs that you obtain by converting your GAIAFORMERS into QICs, it means spending all of them basically just so that you can move around. So I don't think that, maybe the Bal T'Aks, maybe they can compete, but they're not particularly happy with these two objectives because it forces them to sacrifice what they would not want to sacrifice.
We also have a small additional problem with this, and it's that we will never get the Lost Planet. So it's one less structure.
We will never get the Lost Planet. Yes, never ever did the Bal T'Aks. Please prove me wrong. Tell me of that one game with Bal T'Aks in which you were playing alone, probably.
We want proof. We want a link. We want a photo of the table with us, with a sheet signed by your opponents that it's true.
Exactly.
We want a solid proof of that.
I want a picture of the amazed faces of your opponents, filled with rage and disbelief in seeing the Bal T'Aks getting the Lost Planet. The fact that you will never get the Lost Planet means that you won't get the extra sector that the Lost Planet can give you. You won't get the extra building that the Lost Planet can give you, and you won't get the extra planet type that the Lost Planet will give you. So, planet types, do we like this? Do we?
Not that we dislike that too much. One of our two main strategies consists of going up the terraforming track. So we can take advantage of said clusters and dig at range 1. So we can do that, but I have to say it's much easier in theory than it is in practice, because the problem is the tempo on tracks. We'll discuss that in a moment. But you always will go up GAIAFORMING first. So you have to be very careful, because you can then go up terraforming, sure, or you can go up, let's say, science and then terraforming, which can be done, but it really leaves you just the last round, basically, to take planets. And at that point, at planet types, your opponents will have spread out crazily, and so it will be hard. I don't know. We are not the best at planet types. We are not the worst. We can definitely win that. But, I mean, I don't think that's a reason to pick Bal T'Aks,
No, definitely. Exactly. Let's be honest. If you're looking at main objectives alone, like leaving aside every other aspect of the game, just focus on the two main objectives, then there is never a reason to pick Bal T'Aks. Because the only main objectives at which we are relatively good is Gaia planets. And even then, I'm sure that some people will disagree with this, because competing for Gaia planets means investing heavily into GAIAFORMING, which is something that I'm ready to do. I know that people have different ideas on how Bal T'Aks should be played. In particular, I think there is, as you were saying, it's either the terraforming way or the GAIAFORMING way. And to be honest, after being persuaded by some people that the terraforming way was the way to go, I went back on my original idea that Bal T'Aks still remain a fundamentally GAIAFORMING faction. Not as strong as GAIAFORMING faction, but they're still a GAIAFORMING faction that you need to take some transit. So the Bal T'Aks can easily win Gaia planets if they're the only GAIAFORMING faction in play. Or if they're not, well, in that case, I don't know that you will win that, but you can score a solid second place on Gaia planets.
Honestly, we can win that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's never a given, but we can do that, because at that point we become strong with respect to other Gaia-forming faction, we are very strong at taking printed Gaia planets on the board because we produce QICs easier than they do. But we will struggle a lot with our balance of using Gaia-formers for QICs or to Gaia-form. Anyway, I think that becomes our leverage and we can be strong at that. You know, the only thing I have to say about final scorings is that we can be one of those weird factions which do well when both planet types and Gaia planets are in play.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I would say that the best combinations for us are either Gaia planets and planets type or Gaia planets and sectors.
Sure.
Gaia planets and sectors is probably my favorite combination for a Bal T'Aks game. Satellites and both structural objectives, they're definitely not our turf. So since I guess we will move on and discuss another topic now. If we want to make that topic tech tracks, which I think it's about time that we say something about tech tracks.
Yeah.
Because Bal T'Aks have a very special relation with one of the tech tracks, with two of the tech tracks. I mean, they have a very special relation with tech tracks in general. There is some type of link between the topic of objectives and the topic of tech tracks, which I like to discuss. I don't know. In this podcast, we often joke about Bal T'Aks and say that we think they're bad. Why is the reason for that? So, speaking seriously now, I want to bring the attention of everyone on a fundamental point. Bal T'Aks, the only thing they do that is not entirely vanilla is converting Gaia-formers into QICs. So let's get this out of the way. You will go up the Gaia-forming track, and you will go up the track round one. There is no reason to climb up any other track round one that is not Gaia-forming. I cannot even make a case for going up science round one and then start climbing Gaia-forming round two. I don't see that. I even tried playing a couple of games like that with Bal T'Aks, but I don't think it makes any sense.
In the end, you can do that, but the thing is, the normal way to play the base way to play Bal T'Aks is to skyrocket up the Gaia track as soon as possible, possibly with an academy opening. I mean, not that you necessarily need those QICs early, but you need to get some advantage out of your ability, because if you don't, you're just a bad faction with a bad academy too, and a terrible nerf, terrible one.
Exactly. So yeah, that's my point, right? So you want to go up the Gaia track as fast as you can, and round one you can get on level 4 the Gaia-forming track by either building 2 research labs or an academy. That depends. It's situational, depends on player style, and sometimes you won't manage to do that. It's not every game that you can build an academy round one.
Sorry, just one very quick reference. You can also do that, and this is important for us, through the 4 QIC action. This is something which has to be said, I think.
All right. So let's say that round one, you got to Gaia-forming level 4. So you now have 3 Gaia-formers. That means that across the whole game, across the 6 rounds, you will get 18 QACs, right? Because it's 3 times 6, 18. That means that you have 18 QACs during the game that you can spend. You can get a maximum of 18 QACs during the game you can spend. As a matter of fact, you are in debt of 1 QACs because you don't have a starting QAC. So let's bring that total down to 17, right? Because there are 17 QACs that you will get that our faction will not get, right?
I'm certain this is random, but our listeners could be delighted to know that 17 is an unlucky number in Italy, and as well as in other countries.
Yeah, I think I don't know if that is universal or just an Italian, superstition. But yeah, 17 is considered to be an unlucky number. Guess why? So, anyways, you have the 17th QAC. You can have the 17th QACs, right? Which is really good. I mean, if you really had 17 QACs, 17 free extra random QACs during the game, you will probably win every game because, well, that's great, 17 QACs. Problem is, you need to move around the map. You want to build at least 3, let's say that Okay, I'm not even considering a scenario in which structures objectives are in play. If structures objectives are in play, this is going to go way worse than the scenario I'm going to describe here. But let's stay optimistic. Let's say structures are not in play, or they're in play, but you decided not to compete. So you need a minimum amount of structure to build your 3 average federations, which is 9 structures. That's in Christmas land. You will probably need at least 10, 11 structures in order to build your 3 federations. I'm being generous here. Let's say 11 structures, you can build 3 federations. Well, because you have taken the large building basic tactile. 2 structures you already have at the beginning of the game. Again, I'm being generous. I'm giving you 2 planets that you get without spending QICs because they're adjacent to other planets. So it's 11, 9, 7, right? Let's say more or less you will have to move 7 times during the game to get planets. So these are not 17 QICs, they are 10 QICs, right? Roughly. This is very rough. It could be 11, it could be 9, it could be 8. That really depends. And so you have this bunch of extra QICs that you can spend in whatever way you see fit. And you have to decide how many of your GAIAFORMERS you want to commit to actual GAIAFORMing. I mean, how many transit planets you want to get. If you get 6 transit planets throughout the game, that is 1 per round, that brings the total of extra QICs you have access to down to 4. I'm making an optimistic estimate here. So think about this. When trying, to make Bal T'Aks work, think about this. Think about your QICs economy. You need these QICs in order to move around. And you might need some of your GAIAFORMERS to take transit planets. So how will that work out? How many QICs will you have left that you can actually use for, scoring points? That is, rescoring federations or, taking QICs action in general. And that is why I was not mentioning, Matteo, at the beginning, the hypothesis of getting the 4 QICs action round 1. Of course, you can do that. That's going to cost you. It's another 4 QICs that disappear. It's good. You get an extra tactile. You get a bump. So that's a good thing. That's good use of your QICs. Of course, you will get plenty of other QICs by, for instance, climbing up the QIC track. But the point is that any faction can do that, right? So I'm just considering here the extra QICs that you get.
Also, you will never get the ones from the navigation track.
And you will never get the ones from the navigation track that other faction will get. So are Bal T'Aks a super rich faction QIC-wise? They have more QICs than your average Gaia faction, but not that many. Keep this in mind. The obvious comparison they always make is in HALLAS. So the point with the HALLAS is that if the HALLAS want to have QICs in order to score points from QICs action, by mid-late game, they once they open their PI, they will have easier access to QICs action than you as Bal T'Aks. Because they can, at that point, they can really produce massive amounts of QICs.
And after that, they can still move and GAIAFORM if they want and can.
Exactly.
You can't.
Exactly. Right. So this is your only advantage, and it's not that much of an advantage. You have some advantage, but it's not a huge advantage. So keep that in mind and manage your QICs carefully. Which brings us to the topic of tech tracks.
Sure. In general, I think that Bal T'Aks are not exactly a weak faction. The problem is that they are a very hard faction to play, not to mention to master, I think. Yeah. And this is where my impression is that a lot of players fail, because I think that Bal T'Aks are just overrated, not because they do bad, but because they are so hard. They are much harder than people think they are, I think, to be played with results, with good results.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, and one last thing. Power and QIC action. So we're talking about power CQ actions. Even in a Christmas land scenario in which you really have all these QICs and you can rescore your federation, say, every round, from round 3 to round 6. So you rescore your federation 4 times. That's never going to happen. But let's say that happens. Well, that's not enough to win you a game. Again, HADSCH here are a perfect example of this. HADSCH are a faction in which I played plenty of games with HALLAS in which I was able to rescore my federation 3 times, if not 4. HALLAS, they're very good at the rescore fed QIC action. But even then, if you have not scored points from other, if you've not gotten points from other sources as well, that's not going to net you a huge final result. You can rescore your federation 4 times and still end up with a 140, 150, which is not enough to win you a game in a competitive setting, at least. So think about this.
Well, since you mentioned QIC actions, we can return to technology tracks later. But there are 2 important remarks which should be made about this point, I think. The first one is that here comes the micromanagement of your GAIAFORMERS into play, which is vital. So always remember at the end of your turn to convert your GAIAFORMERS into QICs and then pass. This is, of course, this is especially important in online games where you can undo up to a point. But in general, try to plan your rounds. When you have a spare GAIAFORMER, it's usually better to have an extra QIC ready for the next round, because we can produce a lot throughout the game. But the more we can pass from one round to another, the better, so that we can maybe start another round and freeze just 1, maybe 2, and then rescore our federation. In general, we have access to all 3 QIC actions with relative ease. The 4 QIC action is especially important at the beginning of the game. A totally acceptable and often good opening is to aim for the 4 QIC action round 1, which basically requires maybe the QIC booster round 1 and or to gain 1 QIC from power, at least. In general, we are a very QIC hungry faction.
Not necessarily from power. You can get the QIC from the 1 or 1 QIC basic tile.
Sure. Other ways anyway.
Or you can even go up 1 step the QIC track round 1. Weird, but doable in case of extreme need.
Yeah, but at that point, it's just better to go up the Gaia track, I think, because we need those anyway. So, So, okay, of course, it may depend on which base tile stays at the bottom of the QIC track, but in general, we don't want to do that. And as soon as we can, of course, we can and should aim at using these QIC actions. Now, of course, the rescore fed is probably the best for us because all of them deny scoring to other players. But the 2 QIC enters the stage when we go up the terraforming track. We can do that here and there if we are denied the rescore federation, as it is often the case. In general, as you were saying, though, they are good, but will not necessarily win the game. They need to be part of a more general scoring plan, because you can also rescore your fed, but if meanwhile the Nebula is hammering you with the 2 QIC action from round 4 to 6, then he is netting a lot more points, much more easily than you, more easily, because it's just 4 power for them. It's very important. So, of course, we have a strong connection to the QIC actions, but we have to be very careful, very quick, and very ready for that. Get ready for that. That's important. So technology tracks, of course.
So can I add a small thing about QIC? Sure. So it's a very important thing that Matteo has said. I'd like to clarify this. So you are good at producing QICs, but you're not necessarily super fast at producing them. That's one of the problems that Bal T'Aks have, is that rounds 5 and 6 especially, there's a lot of competition for QIC action because people start going up the QIC track and people have their economy at the ready, and so they can spend a lot of power and convert this power into QICs. So Nebulas, Stacklons, they're very good at rapidly converting power into QICs. And HALLAS, of course, they will have plenty of credits they can convert in QICs. So round order at this point becomes very important because it's first come, first served, right? So who plays first get the chance to score points with the QIC action. So be prepared for that. Also, by paying careful attention to what you're doing with your GAIAFORMERS, because if you have placed your GAIAFORMERS down on the board in order to colonize a transit planet, they will not be available during your first turn in the round. They won't be available for you to convert them into QICs. So either you have some QIC, left over from previous rounds, or you don't place GAIAFORMERS anymore in rounds 4 and 5, so that they're already at the beginning of rounds 5 and 6. So be careful about that. So this is another, small limitation that you have. It's true you can produce QICs, but sometimes your GAIAFORMERS are frozen on the board, and other aggressive factions can beat you to QIC actions.
Yeah, that's another tough choice you have to make. There will be a lot about those. So let's step back to technology tracks.
Yes.
Gaia forming. Okay, this is where we start. We are very dependent on this track. And all in all, as you were saying before, in general, there will be no good reasons to not go all the way up to it as soon as possible, starting round 1, because the sooner we get there, the more opportunities will open to us. We will basically always build at least a research lab round 1 so that we can get to Gaia forming 3 and have two precious Gaia formers and 3 extra power. Gaia forming also has this very important limitation for us, because since we have less power than other factions, it's very, very hard for us to place 3 of them. And remember that we do not have any specific help for Gaia formings. We are not ITARs. We cannot burn power to gain technologies. We are not Terrans. So our power will not re-enter our cycle in Bal 2. But every single power that we put into the Gaia Bal, along with our Gaia formers, will return the next round in Bal 1 uncharged. And also, since RPI is actively bad, we will not have a great power cycle, because we are reluctant to build that, of course. And so, okay, let's go up the Gaia track. This is important. And then we have, I think, the choice between the 2 main paths we can follow. First, and probably most intuitive, is to go up the QIC track. This helps because, as I was saying before, we are a very QIC hungry faction, so we can basically use them to move and save our QICs for QIC actions. For QIC actions. That's basically their best use.
That's a nice build up on our native ability that fits very well with our, natural affinity with QICs by providing us with even more QICs.
Sure. On the other hand, you could also arrive to the point where you say, you know what? I don't want to bother with Gaia forming. Since I am not good at regaining power, I have this opportunity to convert them into QICs. So you know what? They will be just straight all QICs. And so I will go up terraforming track, use my QICs to move, but as few as possible. So I will look for classes, as I was saying before, and I will use my QICs to perform those interesting QIC actions. This works, sure. There's an inherent problem to this, which I have never seen highlighted, and I want to talk about now. The problem is that you are anyway at the top of the Gaia track, right? Regardless of the game. So it's relatively easy for you to just top that track at the end of the game. But the Gaia track is the only track in the game which at the top just gives you points. And so I think it's a bit of a shame to be there and not take those points. I mean, you can always do that. That will give you at worst, say, 8 points, but you will colonize at least one Gaia planet, I would say. So like in the worst case, you will get 9 to 10 points. But it's always, it's always a shame not to do that.
For our listeners, Matteo is factoring in also the 4 points that you get just because you are on level 5 of a technology track, right?
Sure.
But if you discount that, it's 4 points on that are always there on top of Gaia tracks, plus 1 point per Gaia, any Gaia planet that you have.
So it feels always like a lost opportunity not to do that, to me at least. On the other hand, you are basically forced not to do so if you want to go up the terraforming track and maybe try to get the Federation token at the top. But I don't know, you are not that good at that. There are other factions which can easily go there before you. So I don't know. Anyway, the two paths are these ones, in my opinion. I think that the QIC track is probably the best one of the two, so we'll Gaiaform more. The terraforming is, I think, is also good. It's not bad. You can add to this science almost all times. You can go up science as the second track. I am not convinced by economy, Bal T'Aks. And of course, we will never go up navigation, so who cares?
Yeah, I have to say, I agree with Matteo on this one. So there is an inherent advantage waiting for you on the top of the Gaiaforming track, especially if you are the only Gaiaforming faction in play. If you are, I strongly advise not to bother and play a very classic game in which you will get some 6-7 Gaia planets, the points at the top of the Gaiaforming track, and the points that you get from the basic tactile 3 points per Gaia planets that, of course, you will have gotten very, very early during the game. So this is a point, and then you go up the QAC track. Yes, of course, terraforming will be an alternative. I'm not seeing Bal T'Aks getting the Federation token on top of terraforming. It's normally a heavily contested track. And I mean, the Bal T'Aks can be relatively good at climbing tracks. I mean, they often open with an academy. That means that starting round 2, you will get 3 knowledge points each round, 4 if you get the appropriate basic tactile. So they don't have a desperate science situation, but they're not even they're not incredibly good at. I mean, if Iraqs are into play, Nebula, if it's are into play, I mean, they will beat you. Taclons, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of factions that can beat you very easily beat you to the top of the terraforming track. So I wouldn't count on getting that token, to be honest. So agreed. Sometimes you can see the occasional Bal T'Aks science game. Yes, doable as well. I would say that, to me, the best scenario for a Bal T'Aks game is you are the only Gaiaforming faction in play. Your transdim are not contested. You can expand with relative ease, and there's something good sitting on top of either the Gaiaforming track or the QAC tracks. Ideally, both of them. So you can aim for those points. Since you are forced to climb very rapidly the Gaiaforming track, that means that you will probably be the one that gets whatever sits on top of the Gaiaforming track. So let's hope is a good advanced tactile, because that could make or break your game.
Okay, so let's speak about advanced tactiles. Well, I partially disagree with you, because I think that if there is something good, no, it's not like that. It's whatever sits on top of the Gaia track, we are the ones getting it. 100% sure, if we want to. I think this is something which can be a given for any Bal T'Aks game, because nobody else gets so much from climbing tracks so fast, and we will actively do that. So that can be a very important first spot for picking Bal T'Aks.
Yeah.
Which are the good advanced tactiles is something else entirely, though. It's not that easy. I mean, of course, 3 points per Fed is good. Yes, it is, but we are not that good at forming federations, actually.
No, we're not.
Nor that fast. So yes, it's a good one, but it's not the best we can get, because we are slow at that. Bal T'Aks are probably the faction which gives me the most problems in forming federations, even more than Firax, because with Firax, I can often think of like a very late game federation, and 99% I will do that. With Bal T'Aks, more often than not, I think I end up with 2 feds. Okay, no, I'm not a good Bal T'Aks player, but we are not guaranteed at all to get the token on top of the terraforming track. But basically, you're correct, we will not get that. So it's one less. So there are 2, 3. Great, but when? Maybe around 6. I don't know. It's a good one. 3 points per mine. What do you think?
I have recently played a game with Babouk because I always play game with Babugi, in which he proves me wrong. Whatever I say, whatever I say in the guides, then there is a game played by Babuk that totally disproves whatever we've been saying. So I played with this game against Babuk, and he was playing Bal T'Aks, and he was able to get on top of the terraforming track, and he beat everyone to the token. Federation token sits on top of the terraforming track, and he also got the 3 points per Federation advance tile that sat on top of Gaia, and then this is unbelievable. And then he got the 5 points per Federation token, so advance tile that sat on top of the QIC tracks. So it was an amazing Bal T'Aks games.
Okay.
He took 2 super strong advanced tactile. He scored 28 on technology tracks, which is really good for Bal T'Aks, and he got that Federation token on top of the terraforming track. It was an amazing Bal T'Aks game. It was a very Christmas landy in that very weird things happen in this game. I'm not even sure why the Bal T'Aks were able to pull off everything that they pull off. I just want to point out that in the end they didn't win. They scored an honest 163, but they were beaten by the Biscuits.
Wow. I don't know what is the most fascinating aspect of this story.
Yeah, there's plenty weird.
I'm amazed by all this. Anyway, this is very interesting though. How can you not win a game after playing like that? Anyway,
I don't know. I till today, I don't know how did he manage to do that, and how did he manage not to win that game. But yeah, it happened. You can look this game up. We'll put the link in the description.
Awesome. I was asking you before this incredible story. What do you think about the 3 point per mine on top of the Gaia track? Sounds like a good one, doesn't it?
It can be good. It can be good if you're able to get that round 3 or 4. And again, you can expand with relative ease. So for instance, you are Gaia forming, you are the only one Gaia forming, so you have all the transdims at your disposal. Then you can, I mean, it's reasonable to think that you can score at least 18 points out of that, right? You can, because you will probably play 6 mines once you have taken that tile, right? So sounds fair to say 18 points. 10 points is not bad. So that can be a good one for Bal T'Aks.
At that point, I would recommend just to go Gaia forming with the 3 point per, with 6 points per Gaia mine.
Exactly.
That's a ton. That's 36 points just out of that. So
exactly.
I would say why not?
Sure. Let's say even 5 Gaia plans. It's still 30 points. That's a lot.
30 points. That's a lot. I think that since we are very quick to get there, the action income tiles. So
exactly.
3 ores, 3 knowledge, and especially 5 credits and 1 QIC, which is crazy good for us. Are not bad. They won't allow you to score directly, but we have to have a lot of problems with the resources. So the more we get, the better, and especially we will get those tiles early. So it's fine, I think.
Yeah, if you can get one of the 3 buttons by round 3, that's very good. That's gonna help you a lot. You will probably have a good game with one of these 3.
Trade station ones is a no for me.
It's the usual. So 3 points per trading station is definitely a no. 4 points per trading station. If you're alone on the top of the Gaia forming track, then you can definitely score some points out of that. Maybe with a last round 4 QAC action and all your train stations open on the board, Christmas landing, maybe. I mean, 12 points is more likely than 16 points, but you can get some value out of that. Also, 2 points per mines is a good tile on top of the Gaia track.
Sure. It's not super easy to score those 16 points, but we can definitely do that. Yeah,
if you are not pressed, if you're not under pressure because of competition, then you can definitely score 16 points out of that.
So I can be wrong about this, but due to also some recent experiences, I think that 3 points per lab is bad for us.
I think it's bad.
It's not good.
Unless you open with 2 research labs.
No, I did that. I tried that, but I failed spectacularly because we had this bad PI. So forming threads is even harder at that point because you don't want to open your academies, closing your labs. But then where are you getting the power for your feds? So
yeah, this is a fair point. This is a fair point. The Bal T'Aks, they tend to want to open their academies also because they will never open their PI, and they need large buildings. And so, yeah, 3 points per lab is not great. Also, the 2 labs opening, I don't like that. That Bal T'Aks already have a difficult economy, and starting round 2 with no mine open on the board, I'm not sure.
You absolutely have to get a good income tile, and with a good income tile, I mean the 4 credits one.
Yeah,
that's the best, I think, for us. Which, in conjunction with the Academy 2, can solve all your credits problem throughout the game, actually.
Yeah.
But of course, we have a science problem then. But anyway, not now. Back in topic, I don't like the 3 point per lab. Of course, 2 points per sector is always good. If sectors is in play, well, that will likely be contested. But
yeah,
that's very good on top of Gaia, I think.
And 2 points per Gaia is, of course, very, very good. The point is that when 2 points per Gaia sits on top of the Gaia track, well, then it's best on competition there.
One of my best Bal T'Aks games, so the 2 points per Gaia planet on top of the science track. And I decided to go up science, of course, and I got that quite easily because nobody else wanted that. That can be a good situation, even though we can be, I don't know, we can be one of those factions which actually does not dislike that element of the terraforming track.
Yes. Also the QIC track.
Oh, sure, definitely sure.
Yeah, we have. I would say we have a good relationship with the 2 points per Gaia planets advanced tactile because we like getting it on top of tracks where other GAIAFORMERS faction won't go very quickly. So yes.
Economy, I frankly do not know. I mean, I have seen one game by Babuk, by the way, won by Bal T'Aks going up economy, but I'm not convinced. I don't know. Economy?
No, I mean, I've seen that done. It you can certainly do that. It's not like mainstream standard Bal T'Aks, and I wouldn't know when to recommend going up economy with Bal T'Aks. I'm honestly at a loss.
I think it's all about the tiles.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
it's all about the tiles. So let's talk about the basic tiles.
Because there is one last thing.
Oh, sorry.
The 2 points per advancement.
Correct. Tile. Sorry.
So the listeners of this show they know that we like that tile. It's always good. For Bal T'Aks in particular, so Bal T'Aks tend not to play science-rich games. And so often you see Bal T'Aks game, ending at 20-24 points on the tracks. So I was making an example of this Babuk game in which he scored 28 because he was able to climb 3 tracks. That's not always the case, though. So I don't know. I mean, of course, that will probably give you some 12 points. You can, that's always reliable, that advanced tactile. If you can score 14, 16 out of it, then that's very, very good. I mean, it's an average advanced tactile. It's a good advanced tactile. So in general, I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't aim for it. I'm just saying that it's not reason enough for picking Bal T'Aks because it's not Bal T'Aks cannot make that tile shine in the way that other faction can.
But on the other hand, we are, I think, the only faction which can actively dig value from that tile if it sits on top of the Gaia track, because other factions, for other factions, climbing fast the Gaia track as too many drawbacks, while for us as only advantages. So
agreed 100%. So the Bal T'Aks are the only faction with which I would consider taking that tile if it sits on top of the GAIAFORMERS track. However, they will score like average or suboptimal score out of it. If there's nothing else, that's a good tile that you can get. So basic tactiles.
But these are possibly more important for us than the advanced ones. We will not win a game without a good advanced tactile, in my opinion. But basic tactiles really can help. Okay, let's start with 3 point per Gaia.
Yeah.
Should we always get that? I don't know.
I
don't know.
That again, we're back to the original problem. It's always the same old problem. Do you want to Gaia form or not in your Bal T'Aks? If you do, if you're planning on getting at least 6 Gaia planets, then I would say yes, go for it. Definitely, it's worth a lot of points for you. Even if you have to sacrifice something, if round 1 you open with your academy, that could be one of the 2 tiles that you get, and you start scoring points from Gaia planets round 2.
Sure. The point is that no, sure, sure. You're right. No, it is just that the difficulty, lies in the timing of that tile to me.
Yeah.
Because if we want to open academy, that's fine, and I think that we can open both academies. I mean, not both of them the same round, but we can decide if we want to sacrifice science in order to solve our credit problem immediately. And in that case, it could be advisable to maybe not to open exactly with that academy, but go up science a bit later, opening that academy, which helps us in buffing our science problem. We can, of course, open the 2 knowledge academy, and that's always a solid one, and go up the Gaia truck. But do we have to take that tile round 1 with our academy? I don't think so. It can be the 3rd one. It's good if we do that. But since we lack one starting QIC, we appreciate, I think, to get the 1 or 1 QIC tile with our lab, and then get another tile,
another income tile,
with our academy. But I think that maybe, depending on the game, we could consider here taking an income tile to help us with our problems throughout the game. If you can get the 4 credits tile with your academy, then I think you should do that and open your 2 knowledge academy. Yeah. So you are basically set for, okay, we'll always need that extra knowledge point, but it's not that hard.
Yeah, I agree with Matteo. Of course, the 4 credits income tile is a great tile for Bal T'Aks, because Bal T'Aks will face a credits problem throughout the game, unless they open their academy too, of course.
But even with that, it's not that much.
Yeah. So it's always good for Bal T'Aks, to get the 4 credits income tile. Also, another tile that synergizes very well with an academy opening is the 1 credit, 1 knowledge point tile. You take that round 1. You start producing 4 knowledge from round 2, and you have a guarantee that you will get at least 1 bump each round, which is pretty good.
Which is good. We have a problem with the charge 4 tile, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not. We cannot extract the same amount of value from that tile that other factions can, definitely, because our power cycle is, all messed up.
Because we are not forced to Gaia form. If we go up the terraforming track, that is way better, of course. That tile, is way better. At that point, taking that round 1 turns into an advantage, or starting with less power in terms of efficiency. Well, not really, because we will always get the 3 extra power round 1. So I don't know. But if we start Gaia forming, that tile becomes incredibly hard to extract value from, and also I think we become one of the factions for which that tile is the weakest, because we will often start our rounds with say 6 power in ball 1, and if we do not immediately Gaia form, then what are we doing with the charge 4?
You can make an argument that you get to Gaia forming level 4, so each round you freeze one of your Gaia formers and 3 power tokens, then you are left with 4 powers in your power cycle, and then you charge at that point. That's a very good power cycle, because there's only 4 tokens going around the round. The point is that you won't get any charge at the start of the round, and so you are reliant on other people charging you.
And also that way you are not Gaia forming that much. It's just 1 Gaia planet per round, which is not a lot. And if you are going that way, I think you should aim at something like a rhythm of like one GAIAFORMER one round and then two GAIAFORMERs the next round, something like that, so that you can juggle between QICs and transiting planets. But if you are really at an advanced stage of the QIC track, you can start maybe say round 4 and 5, placing 2 GAIAFORMERs per round each, maybe even 3 round 5, I don't know. But again, that's another set of tough decisions for you.
Yeah.
So, okay, your power cycle is not the best. It will be one of the worst in general. So, the charge 4 is not. Take that if there's nothing else. But the 4 credits is so better for us.
Yeah, so much better. And also for the same reason, I wouldn't say that we have a particularly strong relation with the 1 or charge 1 basic tactile. I mean, that can be a thing if you decided to open with 2 research labs, because in that case you will have an ore problem round 2. But I mean, the charge 1 that tile gives you is already not much, but in the case of Bal T'Aks, it's very useless. So
knowledge per planet types, if we go terraforming, of course, it's not bad.
Yes.
Recently, my last terrible game, so that tile straight at the bottom of the Gaia track. And to me, that fact alone is enough not to pick Bal T'Aks. Because I will never get that. I have to burn. I took that actually around, I don't know, I think 3. It was not a good game. But just to have something to place an advanced tile
on, yeah.
And also because I said, okay, if I'm not taking it now, I will never take that. But in the end, it just gave me like 1 knowledge. So again, if that tile is in a place if that tile sits on the bottom of the navigation track, that's perfect for us. So that we don't have the temptation and we don't miss anything. It's not good, I think. If you are terraforming, of course, it can help. But when are you taking that? It's
I mean, it's situational, like every faction in the mid and late game. If we have enough planet types colonized, then we can get one extra bump and a half on the extraction. That's not bad. So but I don't say that I wouldn't say that the Bal T'Aks have a particularly strong relation with that. If you need something to put an advanced tactile on, go for the 1 or 1 QC.
Okay. That one is very good for us. It's better for us than for other factions, because that QIC we can extract a lot of value from. And another tile which I have come to the conclusion that we desperately need is the large buildings one, because otherwise it's very hard for us to form federations.
Yeah.
And even if we are not eager to build RPI, to say the least, that can turn our otherwise useless PI into an important focus point for a new federation. No, I think that tile is very important for us.
Yeah, it's
one of the jolly ones. Or
it's the same thing we were discussing at the beginning of the episode. You don't want to place too many buildings on the board, because each building costs you probably almost every building costs you a QAC. So it's better to form federations with few buildings for Bal T'Aks, and that tile comes in really useful for that purpose. And 7 points. Always get the 7 points, guys.
Oh, sure.
Do we need to repeat these every episode? 7 points. 7 points. It's 7 points. It's good because you know why it's good, because it's 7 points. So get it.
Correct. And regarding that tile, I have realized that my decisions on which faction to pick are more and more dependent on where the tile sits, because I really don't like having to do a useless bump the last round just to get the 7 points. So I prefer to take that tile, say around 4, just to take, I don't know, the last step on a useful track for me. If that tile sits on the bottom of the QIC track, that's heaven for Bal T'Aks. Because, I mean, we want those QICs, but we want that after our native QICs. We want that after our GAIAFORMERS. If it sits on the bottom of the QIC track, Xenos will not like that at all. And they are the only other faction, among with Ivids, which concretely competes with us.
Yeah,
for
on the
that
Q
truck.
they can compete on QICs.
And so that's perfect. That's perfection. If it's a free one, of course, everybody's happy. But if that tile sits on the bottom of one track, that influences my choices.
Yeah.
I have noticed.
Yeah, always pay attention where the 7 points tile is. So we can move on to
round scoring bonuses. This is important because we score from the QIC actions, of course, but as you were saying, they are not nearly enough to win games. So we need to consider round scoring bonuses when choosing Bal T'Aks. The problem is that I don't know what we like. Of course, we like points per Gaia planets, that's for sure. But maybe we like that mid-game, don't we?
Yes, exactly. And also remember that it's very hard for us, unlike other Gaia-forming factions, it's hard for us to fully score from that object. That means placing 3 Gaia-formers on the board. And we have already discussed this. Bal T'Aks do not particularly like to do that. Sometimes they cannot do that because they don't have enough QICs to place their 3 Gaia-former in a single round, because you need to convert some Gaia-former into QICs. So that can be difficult. Having said that, of course, mid-late game points per Gaia planets for the Bal T'Aks, why not? You can score 6-8 points with a couple of well-placed Gaia-formers.
If it's say round 3, maybe it's better for us to place maybe 1 Gaia-former round 2 and then use 2 of them to get a printed Gaia planet on the board, because again, it's easier for us. So maybe we can adjust it like.
And you deny that Gaia planet to other people. Yeah.
In a game like that, say 2 rounds are Gaia planets. I would strongly recommend going for the 3 point per Gaia based Gaia as soon as possible and take the most out of that. Of course, that's the best course faction.
Of course, I was thinking that we obviously like large buildings round 1 because we like opening with an academy.
I think we are quite flexible under that regard. Even the classic trade station and research lab and as much as possible is not bad for us. If we get to the Gaia truck round 2 is okay.
It's not a bad opening. I'm just saying that you can definitely open academy Bal T'Aks.
Sure, but if it's like trade stations round 1, we can also build 1 trade station and 1 lab, and we're fine with that, I think.
Yeah, and also for the same reason, since we like going up the tracks fast, 2 points per advancement round 1 is a good start for us, because if we open academy, we take 6 points out of that round 1. Not bad. Mines, 2 points per mines. I mean, there are not that many factions that can really make that objective shine. The only factions that can reliably get a lot of points out of that are the factions that have an explosive, expansive start. So I would say Gleans, Ambas, maybe Bescots, you can do that, and maybe you build 4 mines, 5 mines round 1, and you get some 8-10 points out of that. But if it comes from round 3 onwards, it's difficult to score more than 4 or 6 points.
I think that round bonus can build up for us if it comes along with 1 or even 2 bonuses for Gaia planets. In that case, we can start scoring a lot. Otherwise, it piles up, but we do not excel at that.
It's like with many factions, we don't have a strong relationship with that.
We don't excel at that, neither at the beginning nor at the end of the game. However, if it's around the end of the game and we can organize laying down our Gaia-formers in time for that, and we have the 3 point per Gaia planet, well, then that's 5 points per mine, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So we can do that. We will not score as much as, say, bonus per terraforming step around 5 or 6, like, I don't know, Neblas or Geodes, but we will still do that. Oh, and by the way, what about the step bonus? Wow, that's
again, that can always be good, especially if it comes in the late game. All factions that have climbed the terraforming track will be happy to see that around 5 or 6. I wouldn't say that the Bal T'Aks are better than others at scoring out of that round objective. They're probably worse than other. I mean, we exalted it in our Nebula's guide, in our Geoden's guide, but the Bal T'Aks, are the Bal T'Aks going to score, I don't know, more than 8 points out of that? Yeah, possibly, possibly, but it's not a given.
The problem is that we are not the Nevlas. I mean, we are way poorer than the Nevlas are.
Yeah.
That is the problem. And we do not generate resources as easily as they do. Of course, we could convert our QICs into ore just to score, but do we really want to do that? We don't want to do that. We want to use our QICs as, well, QICs. So,
yeah, exactly. All I can say is that the Bal T'Aks tend to have a better ore economy than they have a credit economy. So by late game, they will probably have enough ore to reliably to terraform a couple of big planets. But again, it can be good, not necessarily super good, not a strong relation with Bal T'Aks in particular.
I think we don't dislike the large buildings bonus, say, last round.
No.
Okay. Throughout the game, we can easily build 1 to no academies up to the last round. So, well, if it's the last one, we should maybe open our academy round 1, because we will never have the resources to build more than 2. And even in that case, it will be very, very hard.
Of course.
But we like to open something very late game. Also, because if we open our credits academy round 6, we can immediately have 4 credits to build something else. So
yeah, the point is that if you have saved both your PI and second academy for round 6, that means that you will probably form 2 federation in the last round, because it's very hard for the Bal T'Aks to form a federation without using any large building.
Well, that can be okay. I mean, we can build
that can be okay, and that can be okay, of course. For the same reason, I would say that 5 points for federation. I mean, we've discussed 5 points for federation plenty in previous episodes. Pretty much everyone scores from 5 to 10 points out of that, and that's it. So Bal T'Aks are not great at federation forming, we were discussing. So if it's round 6 and you can score 10 points out of that, that is good. You cannot expect, I would say, more than that.
It's round 5, it will be, out of experience, very hard to form the 3rd federation round 5.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, this is it for round scoring objectives. Nothing that like really steers our enthusiasm, but hey, we're Bal T'Aks. We'll have to make do.
No, well, I have to say, if there are a lot of, if there are all 3 of the mine bonuses throughout the game, it really doesn't matter
in which order. Yeah, I agree.
Maybe not very early. Maybe from round 2 on. Yeah, I think we can score a lot. I think that can be a very good Bal T'Aks game.
All right.
So the last topic we can discuss before the final considerations, whatever they are, about Bal T'Aks are the round boosters. One of my favorite ones. Round boosters.
Round boosters. Boy, oh boy, do we want...
It's easy. This one is easy.
This one is easy. So
range.
We really want the range booster and the QIC booster to be in play.
God, yes. Oh dear, if we want those.
Those really help.
But what about the 4 credits and points per Gaia planet?
And also that's really, really good for Bal T'Aks, because it gives us point and solves our constant crippling credits problem.
We basically are gleans with an additional need for the QIC booster, I think.
Exactly. So the range booster and the QIC booster are particularly important because they lessen the problem that I have described before, that yes, we have plenty of QICs, but alas, we have to spend most of them in order to move around the map. So if the range booster is in play, that makes it, we can take, let's say, twice throughout the game. That's 2 QICs that we have saved, which is good.
If we are, say, 4th in picking order, we can also consider the map relying on the fact that we will get that booster, which is particularly good for us, because if we charge 2, we will start the game with 4 power in ball 1. So in ball 2, sorry. So we are ready for a QIC, for a power action, which can help us. And we can use that booster to reach planets which would be basically impossible for Live 2. Because as you were saying at the beginning, from time to time and through experience, you will learn when you can spend 2 QICs to get to a planet. But what you really want to do is to avoid that at all costs. And taking that range can allow you to reach some parts of the map which you would not get to otherwise.
Yeah, maybe we have not said that these explicitly before, so let's say this now. So one of the problems that comes with the Bal T'Aks, all weird relation with the navigation track, so non-existent relation with the navigation track, is that other factions, well, except for the EVITs, maybe, other factions, Bal T'Aks and EVITs, they look at the map and say, okay, I have these plans I want to take, which is 4 hexagons away, which means that if I get to navigation 2, then when a QIC I can reach that planet, right?
That's 5 actually.
Well, 4 or 5 doesn't matter.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay.
So,
yes, 4 or 5,
but the point is, the Bal T'Aks, they can never reason this way. So if a planet is 4 hexes away, that's unreachable for us. It's either the monstrous, tremendous, terrible expense of 2 QICs, or you will never get there. And so the +3 range booster, it does something for us that no other component in the game does. It gives us access to planets that are 4 hexes away, which can be really, really important. So yeah, that's a great booster for Bal T'Aks to have in play. What else do Bal T'Aks like?
Well, on the other hand, the QIC and 2 credits booster does not give us access. I mean, does not open new possibilities, but it expands the ones we already have. That QIC is very precious for us. We are probably the ones which can extract the most value out of that booster, because the 2 credits are very nice for us, but they are just the icing on the cake, because that QIC can allow us, say, round 1 to start with the 4 QIC action, even maybe after building an academy. And if we can do that, taking the OQ tile, of course, well, that's a great start for Bal T'Aks. I think maybe the best start for Bal T'Aks is to open 1 academy and then perform that action. That's awesome, because we are at the top of the Gaia track. And
we also have taken another step on another track, which is probably Terra at that point.
But, well, if we do that step on the science track, we will start round 2 with an income of 4 knowledge naturally, which is very good.
That's really hard to attain, because it means opening an academy without going up 1 step on the terraforming track.
It is,
but one can dream.
But that booster is good throughout all the game, because if we don't get probably it's sometimes better than a scoring booster, because we can easily turn the QSU into points. Well, we cannot do that with the other boosters. Speaking of which, okay, let's set aside the 2 points per trade station, okay? We have talked about that a lot, I think. Knowledge and labs. Okay, situationally that helps.
But for the same reason for which I don't think that's, the 3 points per lab advanced tile is a great tech tile, I don't think that booster is a great booster for Bal T'Aks.
Correct.
It's an average booster. Maybe you can score 6 points out of it.
Yes, we're not Bascots, we're not Neblas, so...
Yeah. 4 points per large building?
Yes.
Yes. But actually, yes. I mean, yes, round 1, that's definitely a yes.
Yes.
Because it gives us a charge 4, so we charge 4, so we have the opportunity of getting some maybe juicy power C QIC action, and we will score 4 points because we open our academy. It's very good, round 1. Later on during the game,
but actually no,
because later on during the game, that booster, the problem is that while other factions maybe they have all 3 of their large buildings open, we never open RPI until the very last possible moment, because we don't want to invest a lot of resources in something that, well, gives us nothing at all in return. So that booster is only good for us round 1 and possibly round 6. But for the rest of the game, other factions will probably, be able to extract more value from it than we do. So, so we have a complicated relation with that booster. And while I would say that 2 points per mine is on average good for Bal T'Aks, because Bal T'Aks tend to open, sorry, not 2 points per mine, 1 point per mine.
No, because that booster doesn't exist. It will be a bit overpowered, I think.
Anyway.
Anyway,
so that is good, of course.
The problem with that booster, which I have, is that we're not cleans. So that ore is not bad, of course, but I think that the 1 point per Gaia planet when you pass and the 4 credits is way better than that, because those credits are very precious for us.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think that round 1, the 1 knowledge, 1 ore booster is good for us, because it helps us in building the academy that we want, and it also gives us the extra knowledge that at the start of round 2 will combine very nicely with our income of 3 knowledge, because we have opened our academy.
Exactly.
So that's a good booster.
The step booster is good for us, I think, especially
and the step booster. Yes,
it is good. Of course, it will derail us towards the lab and trade station opening, rather than the academy. But in general, the orange planets have favorable positions for the 1 step, and also we can maybe use, I don't know, our QSC to navigate to a planet of those types, which we can immediately terraform. And maybe that is adjacent to trans-teams or one of the famous clusters. It gives us easy access to one of those clusters. I think it's a good booster for the opening, possibly even later, but that depends. Not the best scenario overall, but
no. And then there is the 1 or 2 power booster, which I would say it's not really good for us unless we aim at having that turn in which we place all 3 of our GAIAFORMERS on the board at the same time. Which I'm not saying I'm recommending that. I'm saying if you want to do that, then you lack 2 power, because you have 7 and you need 9, and so that booster can solve that problem for you, and also can help you with satellites. But the point is, don't pick Bal T'Aks if the main mission is satellites.
I think that booster actually is good for us, because we have this power token problem, and so it helps us solve that. The problem is that I don't want to take that booster. Of course, it's better than other ones, but if I can pick, say, I have to pass, okay, I am giving away my, let's say, 4 points per large building, okay, so something which is not ideal for us, but it's not bad. Okay, now I take my run booster. If I had the choice between, say, that and the range booster, the QIC booster, Gaia booster, we have lots of good boosters for us.
The problem with that booster is not a particularly good booster. I mean,
exactly.
No one overly loves that booster except for Itars, maybe.
Also, Lantids like that in some moments of their game. But Bal T'Aks, in theory, they do. But in practice, no, I want those 4 credits and points for Gaia ones. Why do I have to take? I can get the QIC, man. I don't want the 2 powers. So...
yeah, the Bal T'Aks should really try, to get their way through the game with their 7 starting
powers,
and maybe a couple more that you get last rounds by converting ores or taking the specific relative power action.
Well, you can get some extras from the Federation tokens.
Yes, also.
From the late ones, because at the beginning you will likely need the 7 credits, but of course. The QIC token, the QIC Federation token is special for us, because at that point, we can reliably score 8 points at the beginning of the round for just 2 QICs, which is good. On the other hand, it's entirely possible that we will need some resources, and also we cannot rely on getting that action, as we said. Anyway, that's a good token to be taken early, especially. Yeah, I think this is it. We didn't laugh as much as I thought, which is good
exactly.
From my perspective. We didn't paint a beautiful picture for Bal T'Aks, but the harsh reality...
we didn't give a very clear path to victory. But the point, in my opinion, is the Bal T'Aks do not have a very clear path to victory.
Well, that's both their weakness and their strength, in my opinion, because throughout the game you can always change your mind. I mean, it would be better not to, but you can always turn from terraforming to start laying down your GAIAFORMERS, maybe with the idea of topping the Gaia track. You had a very important role sometimes, which is to deny some transiting planets to Terrans, for example. That you can be a good balance. The thing is, I find playing Bal T'Aks exhausting from a mental point of view, because I always have to consider a lot of factors in my decisions, and I am always afraid of taking the wrong path, which I often do, by the way. So yeah, actually they are not that weak. They are that hard and even harder. This is the bottom line to Bal T'Aks for me. People like them a lot. I think that it's because of this weird mechanic of the GAIAFORMERS. But to be honest, if I want to play a QIC faction, maybe I look at Xenos rather than Bal T'Aks.
Yeah. The best Bal T'Aks scenario is one in which you are left alone on the GAIA-forming track. You can climb up fast that track, followed by the QAC track, and get whatever sits on top of one or either both of these tracks, and score a lot of points out of the Gaia planet, score a lot of points out of the top of the Gaia track, and score a lot of points out of the advanced sectiles that sit on top of these two tracks. So in that case, you're going to have a good game. But that does not happen every day. As for the rest, I think the Bal T'Aks are a bit overrated.
They surely are.
Because their path to victory is difficult, is convoluted, and you need plenty of experience to play them effectively. And even in that scenario, sometimes that's not enough.
You are also very prone to weird plays by other players. My last terrible Bal T'Aks game, by the way, started with a Firax player, our friend Arielito, by the way, who started his game going up Gaia forming 1, which is not ideal for Firax, of course, but that was a pain throughout all the game for me. And if I had, that would have been a pain even if I had no Terrans. But in that case,
when you say pain, you mean pain in a specific part of your body, such as a pain in the ankle, a pain in the knee, a pain in your ear. Where was that pain located exactly? Can you be more specific about that, Matteo?
I do. I mean a specific place of my body.
All right.
But if I had Terrans, as I was saying, that would have been way less painful, because, okay, I made mistakes as well, but they also have this problem if they start Gaia forming. And I think that 1 or 2 trans teams is something that they will take every game, because at some point you also say, okay, this trans team is adjacent to my orange planet. Why not? I need an extra mine. It's easier for me to form federation this way. And so you have lots of problems which can come. If I have a faction which is not maybe one of the top 2 or 3, but say Neblas, a strong faction, and one of my opponents picks Bal T'Aks, I have to be honest, I am never scared by them.
No, me neither.
Never scared of that. Never.
Yeah, same.
If another player...
I'm sorry, Bal T'Aks player out there.
That's it. If another player in the same situation picks Taclons, of course I'm super scared, because it will be a very muscular game, because we will compete for the same things. But if another player picks Terrans, that's way scarier for me, because I know that player will win the game if he or she is left unchecked. I don't know. Of course,
that's my bottom line. That's my bottom line about Bal T'Aks. A Terran or an Etar left unchecked on the Gaia forming track will most likely win the game. Bal T'Aks cannot say the same thing, and that's it.
Okay. Anyway, I think these are our opinions. Of course, feel free to prove us wrong. Tell us that we are completely wrong. We could be. I hope that we gave some good hints to players which are starting to consider Bal T'Aks. Oh, I'm very curious about Ghostly's strategy card for this episode, because I think it would be hard for him this time.
Sorry, Ghostly. What have we done to him? So before we close this down, Matteo, you want to tell me something about the tournament? I have not been following the recent developments of the Eurafrasian second Eurafrasian tournament, to be honest. So update me rapidly.
Well, as I was saying, maybe I didn't say that explicitly, but my tournament ended as well, because I didn't make it to the final. I haven't been playing well in general recently.
Oh, all right.
No, but that's not a problem. I mean, turn-based games are dependent on your life, and so if you are busy as I have been up to now, it's harder. But that's fine. It's okay. It was part of it. So the semifinal ended up with my very bad Bal T'Aks game, which changed things because I was second at the end of the third round. And the other group is doing their final game in these hours. So
we will soon learn who the 4 finalists are.
Yeah, the first 2 are Arielito, which has been playing very, very well recently.
Yeah, he has.
And Duke R, which has been playing well as well. Sorry, is playing good as well, and passed me on this last round with a good Nevlas game. I have to say. So I was happy with that. I like Nevlas. In the end, I'm happy with this, because I have to be honest. All in all, I didn't like this format a lot because I felt like it's very scientific. I think it can prove that you are a better player than the other ones if you win somehow. But on the other hand, it's not what I like from Gaia. I think that I especially like the initial phases of the game where you see what others are picking. And I think that you are on the same line with me on this. I like where picking a faction is an important part of the game overall. And here it wasn't in the end, because I ended up playing a lot of games, which I have to be honest, weren't very fun, because I found myself playing a faction which I would have never picked in that situation. Yeah. And if you keep doing that, say 6 times in a row, it removes a bit from the beauty of the game, I think.
You're right.
But that's just me.
Yeah, in general, I would say that my judgment, my evaluation of the format of the tournament is not that negative. I mean, you have highlighted some problems that are definitely there. I think it's also fun, however, because you start seeing crazy stuff happening when people are playing Gleans and Lantids in contexts where no one in their right mind would ever had picked Gleans or Lantids or Gidans for that matter. So that is fun, and it, as you said, it's a very reliable guide to a player's skill. The fact that you can score consistently across a format with this tournament with this format. And in fact, we've both been kicked out.
Sure. Again,
but I think I made this argument before, maybe not here on the podcast, but I would like to try a similar format in which the setup remains the same, but we play 4 games on the same starting conditions in different positions. So everybody plays first, everybody plays second, everybody plays third, etc. But everyone is left, with the choice of which faction to pick. And I know that Arielito wasn't really into this format. So we will probably have a third Eurofrasian tournament with the same format of the first and second edition,
which is fine.
Which is fine.
It's fine, totally fine.
I will probably play as well. That one as well. Let's be honest. But maybe 2022 will be the first Paia Groject tournament. Who knows? And who knows what weird format we could come up with.
Well, you can tell us if you're interested in what you would like. There's something which I really came to enjoy, which is auction, but for random factions. Those games are very fun in my experience. I love that.
That's another interesting form. I'm not a big fan of auctions, but that can be a format worth exploring further. Yeah. So I would say that this concludes the Gaia Paia Groject Holiday Spectacular, doesn't it?
Yes, I want to end this episode with something I promised, and I want to launch a shout out to Steve, because he said that, listen to how I use my possibilities to communicate. Because he said, he publicly wrote that he would pick Nevlas over Ethers every day. And since I 110% agree with him, and we are 2 alone against the universe, big shout out to Steve. Go Nevlas, go, the best white faction. And so, okay, I fulfilled my vow, I suppose.
All right. And so this is it, folks. Enjoy your holidays. Have a good start of the new year. And
thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. And hear you on the next episode of Paia Groject. We will be next year, 2022.
So here you in 2022. Happy gaming. Happy Bal T'Aks, maybe.
Happy Bal T'Aks. Yay. Happy Bal T'Aks, everyone.
And
don't remember to kiss your loved ones under the Bal T'Aks this year. Mm-hmm.
What a perfect closing.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
I will never speak about Bal T'Aks again this much. It was physically painful.
It was.